Hi there, my name is Sandra and I am using Shortcuts a Lot version 6 and I want to show you some things about colour. So I'm just going to unselect that. So I have 3 shapes here in different colours. Now I don't profess to be a colour changing, colour swapping expert because it's not something that I use a great deal, but there are different ways and places in Shortcuts a Lot that you can change the colour, and I just thought I'd show you where they are and what will happen when you click on them. Even if you get it wrong the first time you try doing it, you'll probably realise where you went wrong and then you'll be able to do what you want to do. Because I use it so rarely, I tend to think, if I do this, it'll do that, and it does the opposite to what I think it's going to do. But that is just me. Now, as you can see, the last shape I selected was this one here because it's got that colour fill and that colour line. I've given them all a black outline so we don't get confused with that. So if I select this one, it will change up here, and if I select that one, it will change. Now you can change the opacity of your colour simply by using the slider here. I will keep it on full. If you want to change it, you can tap on the fill here, and you can either use this slider to give you a different starting point, or you can use these shapes to give you a different starting point. Okay, so if we go into the blue, you will see a very small little line here. It's a little bubble, and if you drag it around, so if I go for something like that, it's a very dark blue rather than the blue that I selected previously, and you click on OK and it's done it. Now, what if I wanted to swap the colour of something? So if I come in here and I select this one, for example, and I come over to my colour picker. When you hover over or click on the colour picker, there's 2 options that come up, and you can get the replace colour or you can get colour. Now if I do get colour, and replacing it with the one that I click on next. Okay, let me undo that. So I have this one selected, go to my colour picker, and then that one there, and it will change the colour of the selected shape to the different one. Okay, right. Now, if I go to the colour picker and I select replace colour, so the old colour is this one here, and the new colour is this one here. Just happens to be what was in my selection, but I can make this more obvious and then click on OK. And then I can limit it either to the selection only, because what this is going to do is going to pick up everything of that colour, and then I would replace it and all things would be replaced. If it's this colour, it's going to replace all of it with that. But if I go to selection only and replace, it's only going to replace that one colour. All right, so if we go back, I click off of that. So I've got the old colour, I've got the new colour. When I click on replace, both of these should change colour. There we go, they do indeed. So that is a way of replacing the colour. I'm going to revert this to make them different colours and go back to my selection tool. All right, so what's this little hamburger here? If you click on it, you have swap, fill and stroke. So this will literally swap them around. So if you've got this selected and then you swap, fill and stroke, it's now black fill with a blue colour stroke. And if I do the same again, it'll put it back, or I could just do undo. So the next one we have is select all, same fill. So if I had more than one of these, so if I take this one and I go to copy and paste, there we go. So if I select one of these and I go to select all, same fill, it will select all of the ones which have got the same colour fill. Pretty obvious, you'd think. And the next thing you have is basic colours, which is a basic colour list. So it changed the colour of that. So we now have custom colours. If I click on this one, if I click on this, it's going to change it to that colour. So how do we make the custom colours? This is important to know. So you want to come up here. I've got this one. I'm going to come up here to the colour swatches, and this is the colour that's in there. Now you can pick any one of these squares. Doesn't make any difference which one. If you don't want a certain colour in it, you can choose that particular square. So for example, if I don't want this particular blue, this is the blue that I'm going to have at the moment. But if I want to change that to something else, I could change it. I could come up here, make it a purple. Let's change this to something completely different. And, okay, so that's sort of like a dark purpley grey colour. All right. And I can add to custom colour. And if you watch this square here, it's going to change to that colour. And then you can click on OK. And it has changed the colour of the fill. So now when I come over here and I go to the custom colours, you can see that that colour is in there. All right. So you've got a choice of so many custom colours that you can have. Overwrite them and it'll just change it for you. So that's how you do it. You can also use these colour blocks, the swatches, and you can adjust it from there if you want. So we can have, let's go for a darker version of that. It's almost a brick colour, and you can add to custom colours, and there it is, it's put it in there. If I click another square here, I can come into, let's go for green, which I'll take that to a sea green, a really dark green there, paler green, darker green, maybe about there. Add to custom colours, and it's in my custom colour swatch. If you import a JPEG, it's worth noting that this changing of the colours and the fill only works for items which are vectors in the first place and have a fill or a stroke or both to them. It doesn't work if you import a photograph and try and sample colours from that. If you want to sample colours from a photograph, your best bet is to use another program such as Inkscape, Adobe if you happen to have it. If you have an iPad or something like that, the chances are you will have something like Procreate or Affinity or something of that type, which is probably going to be able to identify a colour for you by using a colour picker. And you'll be able to write down the number, the hex number, or the RGB, and you'll be able to replicate the colour. So this is for shapes that you have created or an SVG that you have already imported that has a colour or a gradient fill. You can change the gradient, you can change a pattern fill in much the same way. So remember, you can choose your colour up here. You can add custom colours. The custom colours will show in a palette over here as well if you've got any in there. You can swap the fill and stroke. You've got the same kind of options on the line, the stroke colour, swap the fill and stroke. You can select all by the same stroke colour. So if I were to do that, it would select everything because they all have a black outline to them. And you can use your basic colours or your custom colours from there as well. Now, if you're going to do a swap, you come over to here and you go to replace colour. Now, I showed you the colour, but you've also got replace to none, pattern, or a gradient. Just remember that when you do that, you can use selection only, or you can choose to replace all of the ones which were that colour in the first place if you got more than one, and it'll just do the whole lot. It's very handy if you want to select lots of letters, for example, and you want to change them to a completely different colour or pattern or whatever without having to select them individually and do it. So there we go. Changing the colour in Shortcuts a lot is quite an easy thing to do. I said it's not something that I tend to do very often because I tend to design on my iPad and then it's got the colours that I already want. I just wanted to let you know there are different options so that you can play around with it, you can explore, and you can find out how to do what you need to do. Now, as an aside to that, Sandy Macaulay has an absolutely brilliant guide to Shortcuts a lot. She writes the instruction booklets for it, and I will leave a link to that down below so you can check it out for yourself. It's well worth a read, but even Sandy says you're not going to read through all of it unless you want it as a sleep aid. Pick the bits that you want to learn and go for those. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care now.